Let's begin laying out our board. The first thing you want to do is to check our board setup by clicking the board setup icon in the top toolbar. Click Physical Stackup and make sure you have 2 copper layers selected. Click OK. On the left toolbar, make sure Use Mills is selected. Now we want to import the footprints from our schematic. On the top toolbar, click Update PCB with changes made to schematic. Click Update PCB, click Close, and click the middle of the screen to place these footprints for now. Zooming in, I will now hide the front fab layer to make the screen a little bit clearer. The first step in laying out a PCB is to move the components around. I will adjust my grid to a finer grid of 25 mils, and I will begin moving components. To move components, you can select the component and then drag, or you can hover over the component and press M. Next, I will move RV1. When moving components, your goal is to make sure that the rat nest connecting components are as direct as possible, short as possible, and crosses over the least amount of other rat nests. You can see that this net connecting pad 6 of U1 and pad 2 of RV1 is pretty direct, pretty short, and doesn't cross over other rat nests. Let's continue this process. You can rotate components by pressing the R key. You should rotate components as necessary to detangle the rat nests. For example, this C2 component right here have 2 nets that crosses over each other. A better way to place this component is to rotate it. Now we have detangled these nets. Continue with placing components until all of them are arranged in a logical manner. Now that all of the components are placed, you may notice that there are yellow outlines and yellow labels. These yellow objects are part of the front silkscreen layer. The silkscreen is printed on the board when it gets manufactured, so you should make sure that this layer is as legible as possible. To make sure that there are no overlapping legends, you can select the reference designator and then press the M key to move it. Move these references to make sure there are no overlaps, and I would recommend placing them close to the footprint that they are referencing. That looks better. Now we can begin the process of connecting all of these pads that are connected by the rat nests. Click on the front copper layer, and you can begin routing traces by clicking the Route Tracks tool on the right toolbar, or you can hover over a pad and press the X hotkey. Notice that when you select a pad, it highlights all of the other pads that belong to the same net. You can also move a trace by selecting it, and then you can drag. Or if you want to delete multiple segments of a trace, you can select one segment, and then press the U key to select the entire trace, and then press delete. Here we can notice that this pad needs to be connected to this trace over here. We can do this certainly by going all the way around, but a better way is to take advantage of the fact that we have a 2-layer board. We can sneak through these pads here, and we want to cross this trace. To do that, press V to drop a via down to the back copper layer, and now the blue color indicates you are routing on the back layer. And now we can cross all of these traces and connect directly to this pad. Now we have wired up all the nets except for the ground net. We don't want to wire up the ground net with traces, because we will do that with a copper port. You can actually hide the rat's nest by clicking the net label tab here and clicking on the eye icon next to the ground net. There we go. Before we add the pour, let's add a board outline. The board outline denotes the physical margins of our board. To do that, click Edge Cuts, and then click Draw a Line. Draw a rectangle around all of your components. This rectangle is the shape of your circuit board. Now let's add the pour. Go to the front copper layer, and then click Add a Filled Zone. Click on one corner of your board edge. Click Ground to select the ground net, and constrain outline to horizontal, vertical, and 45 degrees. Click OK. Click on the corners of your board. And we want to do the same on the back copper layer. So select the back copper layer and add a filled zone. To fill these zones, press the B key. Now that we can see that all the ground pads are connected to the same area of copper, and all the ground is electrically connected. Notice that if you move a trace, the zone doesn't automatically update, so you have to press the BP again. Technically, the front copper pour and the back copper pour are both electrically connected through the through-hole pads. But we also want to add vias to stitch these pours together to make sure that they are well electrically connected. To add freestanding vias, you can click the Via tool on the right toolbar, or you can press Ctrl-Shift-V. You can place these vias on any area of the copper pour. You can see that as you place these vias, it takes on the name of the net. In this case, it is ground. Place a reasonable number of vias tying the two ground planes together. Now that the board is electrically connected, we should run the design rule checker, or DRC, to double check our work. The DRC is found on the top toolbar. Click Run DRC, and we can see that there are 0 errors and 0 warnings. There's also 0 unconnected items, which is what we want to see. Click Close. Now for finishing touches, I will add a text label. Go to the front silkscreen layer, and then you can add a text item. Type anything you want. In this case, I will write IEEE Hope. Click OK. And you can place this anywhere on the board that doesn't overlap anything else. Our board is now complete. You can see a better view of the board by opening up the 3D viewer. Click View, click 3D viewer, and here is the board. You can see that we have 3D models for most of the components. There's the op-amp, the resistors, capacitors, LED, and our connector. The potentiometer is missing a 3D model because KiCad did not come shipped with it. That is our board, and you have just finished your first layout.